Good morning, everyone. This is Keith with Positively Osceola, and thank you for being part of Daybreak Live, one of the many Positively Osceola live shows we do in and around Osceola County. Glad to do them. And typically, we kind of try not to brag on things, including us or primarily us. But this morning, we want to brag on the fact that we get to have a great conversation with a very knowledgeable leader in the community. And so we're certainly blessed. Like I said, we're not bragging about ourselves, but we are certainly bragging in the fact that we have great guests that come and join us in these mornings, and they give of themselves and they want to share information that helps the residents, like I said, in and around Osceola County. This morning we have from Draper Law Office, one of the attorneys. That would be Michelle Incandela. So good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning, Keith. Good morning, Osceola.
It is a beautiful morning. Did you notice the slightly different temperatures?
Did I notice? I almost practically waited up all night for them. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It was gorgeous. I opened up the sliding doors in the back of our house, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. They said this was going to happen."
Yeah, we got a little bit of that cool, crisp air finally.
We did.
We certainly deserve a little bit of nice weather after what we've been through, right?
Yes. Did you stumble upon, and maybe on Facebook or so or Instagram, did you see a graphic that people posted? It was I'm going to misquote it, so I'll paraphrase it, but the graphic said something like, it noted the spring like cute weather. We appreciate the spring like cute weather. Seeing as you tried to kill us last week for the other.
Yeah, I did. I think it said, look at the weather being all springy and cute, as though it didn't just try to kill us all last week.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was great.
Well, leave it to an attorney to be a wordsmith.
It was a good one. It stuck in my mind as well.
Yeah, it was a good one. So got a few people popping on. So let's go ahead and make this morning, if you are okay with it, let's get it started and make it official.
Absolutely.
Here we go. So again, welcome to Positively Osceola's Daybreak. And today we are super honored to have Michelle Incandela, attorney over at Draper Law Office in Kissimmee. You guys have been there a while, doing great things in and around the community. We are really appreciative that you would take time this morning and be with us.
Of course. It's wonderful. Every time I have an opportunity to do this, it's an incredible experience, and I'm very thankful for you guys and for everyone in Osceola. You know, it's a great community, and I love having great people like you who highlight all the great things about our community.
So we do our best for sure. And often you're able to speak to one of my favorite humans, and that would be Chrissy Hardy. She does a great job in these shows as well. So, but I'm glad to be here today with you for darn sure. And so, you know, we kind of talked a little bit earlier, and first of all, maybe we should start off with, give us that 30-second, 1-minute overview of Draper Law Office, what you do in the community, what kind of firm you are, and what your focus typically is, please.
So absolutely. Draper, we've been here since 1984. Charlie started this back in 1984. He came from the New York area, and he has been just an incredible community leader over the years. We primarily handle personal injury cases and family law cases. And so we help people put their lives back together after they've been involved in an accident or had an injury. And Charlie is, like I said, one of the most active community leaders and incredible people I've ever met, and does just such an incredible job for his clients, and Linda as well. You know, we're a small firm. We're what you probably would call a boutique law firm. We don't handle volume cases, so it's very individualized. And I'm really lucky, Keith. I'm really lucky. I'm thankful that I have a job where I get to do what I love, which is to help people, at a time when they need it. So you guys need us. Draper Law is always going to be here for you.
Well said, for sure. And I know I think it's, it seems that I think there are a lot of businesses, a lot of organizations in the community, and so many really do involve themselves with what's going on. And it's not, I think sometimes people get the wrong idea and think, oh, that's just a way to get your business name out there. And that may be the case. But like you said, since 1984, you've been out helping people all over the community. And so you're basically part of the community. You have been for decades. So it's not a get your name out. It's how to help people that are possibly struggling or need your expertise. So we were talking earlier before we went live, and certainly Hurricane Ian certainly has dominated most conversations in many different ways, whether that be, basic media, social live media, whatever it is. It's something we've all been experiencing in Central Florida and throughout Florida, really, and certainly much worse in Southwest Florida. And so those conversations trigger lots of different things that we don't typically talk about. And I think you made a great point. It brought that conversation to insurance, right? That's a topic we were talking about, we have been talking about, and still will be talking about. So, that has made people, sit and say, okay, what kind of insurance do I have in this realm? What kind of insurance do I have in this particular vector of my life? Am I making the right decisions? I think that's probably what my family was saying. Did we make the right decisions for this particular scenario?
Right.
And now that we're talking about that, let's look at the other areas of insurance that are important for us to make sure we're protected. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to kind of move to that, not, maybe not talking about hurricane insurance and all that fun stuff. Maybe that's part of it, but why don't you tell us about what your experience and what your knowledge is and what we should be looking at when we do shop for insurance with, all the different realms that are so important for our safety. If you don't mind, can we go that way for a while?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the things that I myself cannot stand doing is reading insurance policies, right? It's like watching paint dry. It's incredibly boring, as there's complicated language and a lot of things are difficult to understand. Even as an attorney who's practiced law since 1997, there's still some things in policies that I see that are really ambiguous and conflicting and difficult to understand, and people don't like doing it. And so I tell everybody, and I'm the first one to say that I need to be on myself to do this as well. You should not be complacent about reviewing your insurance policy every few years. Ideally, every year, take a look at it, because they're sending you documents when you renew your policy, whether it's auto or home. They're sending you those documents probably every 6 months that gives you a copy of what those coverages include. And sometimes they change, and you don't pay attention to the fact that your policy terms may have changed, coverages may have changed. And so I tell everybody, listen, and an event like Ian there was so much tragedy from it, and so many people were caught off guard. And they were caught off guard because there were coverages that they didn't realize they needed. So big just example with that is flood insurance. A lot of people here inland, right, in Central Florida, who are not in flood zones or don't live near a lake and don't have any high risk, said, I don't need flood insurance. I'm not coastal, and hurricanes rarely come to us. And they unfortunately had situations where their properties and their homes flooded, and they came to find out the hard way that most homeowners insurances do not cover floods.
Sure.
And so all of those expenses are going to be, whether it's new flooring, and it can be extensive. Some people have literally lost everything because those floodwaters came up, several feet inside their home. So again, most people were not aware of what's in the policy and what's not in the policy. One of the best ways to do it, I think, is to go to an agent that deals with multiple types of policies and multiple companies, right? Don't go to Geico and ask what Geico has, or go to State Farm and try to do it on your own, but go to somebody who specializes, who's a broker and who deals with multiple different companies and products, and tell them what your needs are. I own a home, or I don't own a home. I rent an apartment, I rent, or I own. I have 5 cars or 2 cars, 7 drivers, 1 driver, and tell them what your budget is and what your priorities are. And things that I will say from my perspective as someone who helps people who've been involved in accidents, I spend most of my time fighting with insurance companies on behalf of my clients, fighting really hard. Insurance companies are not fair. They're not agreeable. It's very sided. The laws are very sided mostly towards the insurance companies, and it is a fight. But in order for me to even be in the fight, there has to be a coverage there, right? And unfortunately, in Florida, there's no requirement for drivers to carry bodily injury insurance, which is the coverage that your insurance company would pay someone else if you caused an accident that caused them injuries. And flipping that around, if you're in an accident that's not your fault, someone else causes the accident and you're injured, if they don't have bodily injury coverage, that now looks, the next place to look would be to your own insurance company to see if you have uninsured motorist coverage. And if that person doesn't have bodily injury coverage and you don't have uninsured motorist coverage, there's no way for me or anybody else to help you. It gets very complicated after that, but I'm just going to give you the nuts and bolts of it, is that it is a very, very difficult situation. And 99.9% of the time, there's no way for me or any other attorney to help you in that circumstance. So how do you protect yourself? You go to your broker and you say, look, I want the coverages that are going to protect me and my family. One thing I will say is absolutely in Florida, make uninsured motorist coverage a priority. But talk to them about things like, like I said, look at the whole package. A broker can a lot of the time say, okay, if you go with one company and you bundle coverages together, so if you own a home and you have 2 cars and you put them with the same company, the discount that you get for bundling that can usually, go towards an increase in your coverages and what protections you have. And they will explain things to you in a way that the representatives that work for the companies don't. Because they're salesmen and they're trying to push a product, right? Sure. Not that the brokers aren't salespeople either. I mean, they want to sell policies also, but I find that they give people a much better fit for what their needs are. They explain things more clearly. And again, take a look at what your coverages are, because they do change. And sometimes I know a lot of people back in my property insurance days, I know a lot of people got in trouble because the homeowners policies started not covering sinkholes and right. Changed, and people didn't realize it. They didn't realize the cover because they never looked at their documents. You get it, you pay your bill, you throw the document in the drawer, and you never look at it again. So I think it's really important. It's really, really important every couple of years to say, you know what, I really want to take your documents in there and say, look, this is what I have now. What happens if, and ask the question, with the policies that I have now, what happens if my house is flooded? Am I covered? What happens if I'm in an accident with someone who doesn't have insurance? Do I have coverage? What happens if I'm in an accident? Will you provide a rental car if the other guy takes off? So those types of scenarios, they happen all the time. And sometimes it's easier to ask the what happens if question, because that will lead you to the types of coverages that you need. And unfortunately, with insurance prices being what they are, nobody wants to pay more for insurance, right? We're all bitter and angry about what we're paying in the first place. So the idea of saying, I'm going to pay a little more for insurance coverage doesn't really sit well with most people. But unfortunately, when you see those ads for the discount coverages and we'll save you 10%, a lot of the times the way that they're doing that, they're saving you money because they're cutting your coverages. They're giving you really poor coverage. And so that, and at the end of the day, can really come back to hurt you. And I don't want to see anybody hurt. And it's so frustrating for me, Keith, and I've been in this situation so many times, and it is absolutely heartbreaking, because when people come to me, they need help, right? They're hurt, their family members hurt, their car has been destroyed, their lives are just in a complete, shambles, and they need to be able to put things back together. And if they don't have those tools, I really can't do it. I have to tell them, I
Right.
can't help you because there's no way for me to help you here. And it's so frustrating and it's heartbreaking.
Right.
I don't like being in that position.
I think that, I mean, I'll speak from my own perspective and for people I know, people and staff members, and we've had these discussions as far as insurance, and certainly my wife and I, same thing. I think it comes to, for me, it comes to the moment that you're entering in to the, I need insurance, I'm going to speak to a broker or an agent. That, I think primarily the majority of people are doing what you described, which is, okay, I've got to have insurance, and these are the sectors I must cover. And you want to be responsible in how you do it, but let's face it, you are looking at trying to do this in an affordable fashion.
Right.
So anytime you do that, when you're speaking to an agent, salesperson, broker, that is, depending on how you create, how that temperature, that discussion typically will tend to unfortunately push that person in a direction where they want to make that sale, and they can read how you're coming into it. So if the primary concern is, I've got to get the cheapest insurance I can, you're going to walk with that likely, right? And that's where and then you see the result of that. So I guess what on our side, in our family, we've tried to not do that. We've tried to look at things and say, okay, let's research this. Let's look at what do we need. As far as, I think auto insurance is such a challenge for people. Cheapest insurance, I get on the road, I'm legal. But in reality, there are accidents, not some days, there are accidents every day. And in the area we live in, it's for real. And so it really isn't wise to come into that, I'm going to go for that cheapest insurance I can get. As long as they pay and they're reputable, I'm good. That's not the way to go. At the end of the day, if somebody's injured and we come see you, now we've handicapped the situation, correct?
Yes. And what's almost worse, Keith, is that some people are not going in saying, I want the bare minimum coverage. People are going in saying, I'm from New York, I'm from New Jersey, I'm from Pennsylvania, I'm from Oklahoma, and I'm just relocating to Florida, and what do I need is insurance wise. And that agent tells them, don't worry about it. We can give you full Florida coverage for this price. And they go, oh, full coverage. That means I have everything.
Right.
And hey, this is a great price. Okay, I'm new to the state. What do I know? Well, there's a lot of misinformation out there, but when an agent tells you that you have full coverage, usually what they're talking about is the bare minimum of what the law requires. And in Florida, that's $10,000 in property damage and PIP coverage. That's it. Which means that, if there's, that doesn't even include collision or anything, and all those things are extra. But people, especially ones who come from other states, where the full coverage there is very, very different. I mean, in some of the states up north, and this from where you're from as well, there's $200,000, $250,000 PIP coverages up there, and minimum requirements. You can't put a car on the road unless you have $50,000 or $100,000 worth of coverage in case you injure someone else. And so people have that sense of, if their car is on the road and it's insured, they know that those other people have bodily injury, and they know that they have a certain amount in PIP coverage. You don't have that here in Florida. There is no requirement for those things here in Florida, and people coming out of state don't realize that. Yeah. And when an agent tells them, we're going to give you full coverage for a great price, they go, okay, and they don't really know what it means. So they're shocked to find out. I had someone who came in and said, oh, well, I have the minimum, I have the full coverage in PIP, so I have $250,000 in coverage, right? And I said, no, you have the PIP coverage, which is $10,000. They'll pay 80% of the first $10,000 in bills. And they said, what are you talking about? It's got to be higher than that. I said, it's not. Welcome to Florida. But they're coming from another state where it was much higher. And so that's what I mean. There's so much misinformation, and that's where a broker can be your friend. Because the other thing that people think is, if I go to an agent and I tell them that I want all these coverages, it's going to cost me a lot more money. But I've been in a situation where my broker has actually saved me money, because there were better products that came available on the market, different carrier. They said, hey, you know what? You're getting these coverages right now through this one, but this company is offering these coverages and you can get all this coverage and more, and it's actually going to cost you less. And then bundling, a lot of people have houses and they own homes and they have vehicles, and they're not taking advantage of the bundle discount where, you combine those coverages under one carrier and they're going to give you discounts, which actually means you can get more coverage. So sometimes it's paying more, but actually sometimes you're saving money and you're getting better coverage. But it's all about doing that research and taking the time. And it just always seems to be something that, we put off, we'll deal with the insurance next week. And then unfortunately accidents happen at very inconvenient times. And that's when people get stuck. So, put it on, I don't know, pick certain time of the year, like when you change your smoke detectors, put it in when you change your batteries in your smoke detectors, make sure you review your insurance policies, whatever's going to trigger it for you so that the 10 years doesn't go by and you have the same coverage you had a decade ago, and God knows how it's changed or what it covers at this point.
Yeah, we're certainly in a changing society. I mean, people are a little heated if you're coming from the St. Cloud to Kissimmee area, getting from St. Cloud to the Turnpike and all that traffic flow. I mean, it really does depend on the individual, but people are a tad anxious in the last couple of days because it's been a little more challenging than typical with some road work going on. But as I was coming here today, I was thinking, because I knew we would be talking about something related to the insurance most likely. It's just such a high possibility that you're going to, unfortunately, be in some kind of an accident. You hope it's a low speed, nobody injured thing, but you just don't know. And we all know that it's frequent in Central Florida. And so, I think you're right. Hey, a little phone moment. I think you're right. You have to pick a day or pick a time of the year when you're going to look at things. It's just a fiscal responsible thing to do. It just is. You have to look at, you can't let insurance go for 10 years. I know I've done that for sure over in the past, but yeah, it's just wise to look at the policies you have. And actually probably that's the best way to save, or at least to ensure that you've got an efficient policy. So how does somebody contact Draper Law Office? What's the most efficient way to do that?
So I probably at the bottom of the screen here is our website, draperlawoffice.com, and the phone numbers. And I tell everybody also, listen, if you have your insurance, your auto policy, and you have questions about it, call me. Call Charlie. We will explain coverages to you. We deal with these policies all the time. I would rather people understood and ask questions, because maybe they don't need, maybe they only have one question, or maybe they're just not sure if they have a coverage, or they don't understand what the coverage is. I would much rather give people information that's going to save them heartache and trouble in the long run. Happy to do that. So yeah, if anybody wants to reach us, phone, website, carrier pigeon, however.
And so I want to make sure I want to show a few of the pictures that we did set up here so we don't forget. That is the location, folks, right on Broadway rather, in the downtown Kissimmee area. If you're coming from the US 192, if you hang a left, depending on which way you're coming, you go in towards downtown, that's going to be right across from the courthouse, the county courthouse, easy to see. I want to ask you one other thing before we kind of sign off here. So I'll kind of put you on the spot. You did kind of cover this, but I just want to put it in a real clear moment. So you see the eventual of somebody's decision, right, on their insurance. What would you say the two things that people need to make sure they do or need to be considering when they go to looking at new insurance? We're talking auto right now. What are the two things that you think people need to make sure they're considering?
So for auto insurance, I think people need to consider protection of themselves and their family. And the way to do that is uninsured motorist coverage. So you want to go to that agent and say, I want to make sure that myself, my family, my children, my wife are protected. And if the best way to do that here in Florida is uninsured motorist coverage. As much uninsured motorist coverage as you can fit in your budget is as much as you should get. I don't think you can have too much, and I'll scream this from the hilltops, because that's the protection that you have. And again, remember, Keith, it's not just, we tend to think about ourselves, but when your child is out in a car with someone else, or your spouse is out, there's a lot of different ways these coverages apply, and that is the best protection. So protect your family and uninsured motorist coverage.
In a while, and we do appreciate you being here with us today very much. I know you and Charlie and everybody, Linda, the whole staff, you're all very busy in Kissimmee taking care of the needs of the community. So we thank you for taking a moment to talk to us today.
Absolutely. Have a great day, everybody in Osceola. Have a great day. Enjoy this weather. Look forward to seeing everybody soon, and stay safe.
That's right. This is the time of year when we call our friends up north and tell them how intelligent we are for making the decision to live here.
You got it. You got it.
All right. Again, we appreciate it. Again, this is Keith with Positively Osceola, along with Michelle Incandela from the Draper Law Office, together making a positive difference in and around Osceola County. Thank you.